Hello, viewers of the internet. Today, I will be attempting to build a rival of sorts to the Lamborghini Countach. Now, the two vehicles I can really feel work are not the 1985 Coupe, it's a bit too much of an LMP, but we can go with the 1965 Coupe, a little older, but it still should work. I don't want to use that 1975 Coupe that I had before, but I could use it should I want to. But I'm going to use the 85 Coupe, as I say. It may not be mid-engine, it may turn to a front-engined all-wheel drive vehicle, which is a change, but, you know, it's a new model, so we can afford to change in that respect. I believe we were using fiberglass before, so I'll use that again. We'll go with a unitary fiberglass construction if we can, which we should be able to. I think carbon fibre, no, it's a bit too modern. Go with corrosion resistant steel in this particular case. And the engine placement can be front longitudinal. Can be front transverse, but it's not really the kind of layout you would use for a supercar with 6+ cylinders. And we're not going to be using a 4-cylinder. How would I get almost 500 horsepower with a 4-cylinder engine in 1990 safely? I don't know. It would just have far too much lag to be any use whatsoever. Now, we could go with multi-link rear. I'm thinking with kind of what I'm going for, double wishbone all round is a good setup. It's what I've used on the older model, but I see no particular problem with it, so I'll keep with it. Quality, I think we want to go +2. We did that before, so no problem with doing that. And there's our body. It is a bit of a generic coupe. You don't see it and think it's a supercar immediately, but that's kind of the point. I think I want to make it a little more sleepery than it was before. We could bring that up maybe. Nah, bringing it down makes it look even sportier. And that can go back. I could actually have quite a nice kind of slope here if I do it correctly. So I want that to be out because of, well, aerodynamics. This can trail along a little. Can flare the arches. Maybe. It doesn't let you do it by that much, but we can add some flare to them. Hopefully give us wider tyres. And maybe bring the interior back for improved weight balance. Although it won't let me move the lower edge of the windscreen that much. That should do a good job of it. Just trying to bring it all into proportion now. Will it be a 4-seater though? Because if it will, I could probably bring that whole kind of part of a car back. You know, I think I am. I'm thinking I'm going for a 2+2 again. Now, we don't want it to look like steel. Well, it is fiberglass, so it wouldn't naturally look like steel. We can go with Core 2 Duo Blue. Is there any trim? Yes, we can go with chrome window trim. That's very nice. And any other trim we can adjust? What's that? Like, that looks like the bit under a window. Or is it just a window trim? I'm confused. I think I've done what I'm trying to do. Slightly confusing though. It changes kind of the mirrors and that lower part there, so it doesn't just work if you want to make that one part plastic and the mirrors another colour. I think I'll just make them blue. Saves a little messing. About the best I can balance it at this point. Now, chrome is probably going out by this point. But anyway, I still have chrome because that's the way I am. Ooh. I can actually have kind of a two-tone. Oh no, I can't. I'm just being stupid. Now we need to design a vehicle of sorts, and I've had a plan. Yes, if we can have these. Some form of these lights should look good. I think I'll go with the chrome ones. Chrome, it gives me class. And elegance. In my head, at least. Can probably move these slightly inwards. I know I've basically built a Nissan Silvia. Not the most creative supercar design here. Can go with a fancy fuel cap. Just there, like so. Because sports car. Oh yes, we need a scoop. For reasons of, I don't know, we need a scoop. There we go. Our weirdly obnoxious bonnet scoop, which is not necessary, but I've added it anyway because I feel I want it. You can just hopefully sit here. This is for now going to be our design, probably far too much cooling. I remember the other engine I built was in the back of the car, but then it only had a grille on the front, but it was enough. It just looks, it looks weirdly sad. It looks like someone's taken its favourite toy away. I think we need to turn that over if we can. Now it just looks like a Maserati whip-off. I think it's still centred. Come on, are you centred? Now it is. Good, good. We need an engine though, which I have sorted because the Retro Me Bob had an engine. There we go. We need to select our drive type by the looks of it. Longitudinal rear drive. We don't want front wheel drive. We'll stay with rear drive for now, see how it comes out. Yeah, I'm thinking it was lighter significantly than before, but it's not. Now, we do have no problem with this, although it is a heavier engine, and oddly it seems to struggle to fit in this car too, but it does fit, thankfully. No problems there. We've got single point electronic fuel injection, 2 valve per cylinder, and it's a aluminium 6 litre V8. Can we do anything with that? Ooh, we can. How did I not notice this before? There's extra power to be had just by making the exhaust larger. They are massive exhausts now though, to be fair. Yeah. Should we make them a little smaller? I think they were there before. Yeah, I did make them stupidly huge, I'll say that. We do want to make a change to the valve per cylinder though, if I just try and take the parts off I want. Hopefully that bit, and that bit, and... where is it? No, that's a sump. Sump can stay. The headers, they can go. And that shows what I need, I think. There we go, Walker cover. Now we can see what I need. It's a 2 valve per cylinder engine, and you'll see it's under quite a lot of stress. So if we do rev it, you'll see it's got to push all that air and fuel just through 2 valves. Now if we're going to make the kind of power I want, almost 500 horsepower, we are admittedly fairly close thanks to twin turbos, but if we want that kind of power, we're going to need more valve per cylinder. Now I'm going to go with an overhead cam, 4 valve per cylinder. There is dual overhead cam, but I see no reason we should have to go that fancy. And already, we're almost there. Now I'll finish off doing bits and bobs to this engine to hopefully make it handle better, and then I'll return when I'm done. Okay, so I've tried to get things done and I've not done that well. So I'm thinking I'm going to try a completely new engine designed to rev higher than this one and see how things go. And here we have our engine. Well, kind of. The camera's having a bit of a messy moment now and I'm underneath the floor of the game. Yeah, strange things are going on, but the engine has been made and it is showing at least all the functional bits of it. We have 500 horsepower and 536 torques. Pretty good. We make 8 horsepower more than a Lamborghini, more power for once in this case, and we make less torque, so Hopefully we can make the vehicle slightly lighter to compensate for that. Trouble is, we've got a 330 kilogram engine now. It is heavy, but then so are Lamborghinis getting heavier as the engines are getting larger. It's a 5.7 on the Lamborghini in this case. As I didn't mention just then, my engine is an 8 litre, kind of like the Dodge Viper. It might even be a little bigger than mine, but this is a V10 because of the 90-degree angle which I can use, which allows the engine to sit lower. It has got short cast headers, as they're called, on there. I'll explain all that later, but for now, all this stuff is the same as it was in the 70s actually. That's not changed, but we are getting higher RPM, probably because we've got more cylinders and we can push to higher RPMs. So that's always a positive thing. I've gone on +3 for quality there for some reason. It doesn't really affect it that much. I can keep my 500 horsepower figure and have it on just +2. We've got VVT, as every 90s car has to have. And we've got compression at fairly normal rates. Cam profile is high. You'll see I'm messing with it now. I just managed to eke an extra horsepower out of it. Well, probably less than a horsepower, but still. You'll see there. Managed to eke a bit extra out of it, which is interesting. It's set very high because it's a high revving engine. That's how it makes its power, by just revving to the top. It's not the most effective way. The turbo engine was probably better around a track, but I wanted the engine response, and there's no way I was going to upgrade turbos on that to be reasonably responsive because the RPM wasn't going up on that engine, so I was stuck with about 6500 RPM and it would have been lagging for about 4000 of them, which would have been ridiculous. We've got a naturally aspirated engine. Yeah, it explains. The engine is showing signs of valve float. -1% though. It's nothing to really worry about. It's such a small amount that it's not going to hurt the engine. We've got single point electronic fuel injection still. We can change it. I didn't see the need to. We can get extra power though, but we're easily beating the Lamborghini, so I have no problem with this as it is, and 501 horsepower. It's got the magic number, 500, yay. Ignition timing again, we can try adjusting this, but I don't think I'll get much more out of it. It revs to 7200. It's, I believe, 700 RPM higher than the original and 900 than the turbo version of a Retromibob. It is a heavy engine. There's no way of getting around that. It's about 70 kilograms heavier than the turbo version of a Retromibob, which wasn't a bad engine in its own right. This is a lot heavier though, just the way it is. Long tubular can save me some weight. Yeah, quite a bit of weight actually. That turns it into a 302 kilogram engine. But as I was going to explain, I'm very restricted in terms of what I can do here, because if I go to tubular, the engine won't fit. Long tubular, the engine won't fit. Short cast, the engine won't fit. Cast, well, no, short cast it will fit. Cast log, it won't fit. So, yeah, that was the only real option I had without having to mess with the RPM too much and just losing the engine for what it is. I mean, I could possibly have made the power, but it wouldn't have been the same engine. I would have had to throw a lot of it away, and I didn't want that. Now, we have got this other stuff. I may go all-wheel drive, but I think I'll want the weight balance. That is not a great ballast to have on the front, and when you're adding all the all-wheel drive gubbins, yeah, that's not great either. Plus, I would have to raise the engine up to add all-wheel drive. Well, at least theoretically, which is not what you want, especially since I've gone with a V12 to keep the weight mounted low. We want a manual 5-speed, I think. Should be a good transmission for the purpose. This is a lot more of a GT car than it was last time with the Retromibob. That was more of a supercar. Now, I'm thinking I'll need to go with aero parts of some kind. Hopefully now I have adjustable aero in this game, but I don't know for certain. We have... They all apparently cost the same, but I think geared is the better technology, slightly, so I'll go on that. We can +2 on quality, so +2. Now, what are we going to do with tyres? That's the question. Ooh, seems to have been quite generous with me. We have 265 front, 285 rear. If we extend that out more, well, as much as it will let me, it's not overly generous here. We could perhaps go 295. Although you can tell they would not realistically fit into a wheel arch, so maybe I'm restricted to 285. They're not horrible tyres. They are not as wide as I would like to be, though. I guess we just have to be thankful that it's only a low torque engine, that it's not the kind of turbo unit we had before. Still, I think it will get by. The Lamborghini has much wider rear tyres, but we are a front engine car, so we need the extra turning. From there, 235s I think they have on that car, something around there, and the rear are narrower. We'll just have to hope it grips, honestly. We'll go with magnesium wheels and make them larger, perhaps. Ooh, can't make them too large though, or it oh dear, impacts our tyres, as I was saying. Wait a minute, can we use this to widen our tyres, I wonder? 15 seem a bit too small for a modern supercar though. That's the problem. 16s, are you still? No. 16s start restricting the tyres, that's the problem. I think rear I'll actually have 305s, 265, just pretend they fit. Yeah, because that's all I've got right now. So 265, 305. I really do hope this grips. I don't even know the weight balance yet though, so who's to make a judgment? I think we'll have perhaps 3 piston brakes on the front, make them as big as they can go, and we'll have vented discs on the rear. I believe it was solid piston in the Retro and Bob Turbo, so it's a good upgrade from that. 250mm. Yeah, it's still going on about signs of valve float. It can't be that much of an issue. Surely not. Go with a fully clad under tray. And how much cooling airflow do we want? I think we've easily got enough. And that should allow a little bit to our brakes. Hopefully. Ooh, the quality, how could I forget? We do have the opportunity to put 5 seats in it, but we'll go for 4. At the kinds of speeds this is capable of, you don't want 3 people in the back. It'll be a bit too tight of a squeeze anyway. You can tell it's not really the most accommodating of vehicles. Now, we can go with a good interior on this, I think. Luxury, perhaps? Can go with luxury cassette. Can go with variable hydraulic steering to help keep the beastie under control. Some traction aids. Or should we go Viper and not have traction aids? No, we'll have them. And we'll have some safety equipment of sorts. Advanced, yes. Gotta keep this thing safe in a crash. We'll go with hydro pneumatic comfort suspension. It was on sports for Retro Me Bob, but this I think I'm going for a more comfortable car, which is where comfort suspension would really come in handy. Hydro pneumatic I don't think has settings anyway. I think it's just the way it's set up. It's supposed to filter out bumps and keep the car stable in general, but it doesn't really set up because it's fluid and all things flowing through the car. It's not traditional springs and everything. Now, it apparently does 0 to 60 in 5.1 seconds. It was 4.5 for the Retro Me Bob. We have to be careful of that, I think, to keep this thing quick to 60. And it's quick in a straight line. That's good. Quick outright. Need to try and keep the power band there. And I don't know what the acceleration is going to be. I think slightly longer gearing, as so it's not just spinning up the tyres all over the place. 10.2 miles per gallon. We've hit a new low here, that's for sure. Yeah, the wet drum with Bob was actually quite efficient for a supercar. Then the turbo was not efficient, but okay. This is just, well, quite simply ridiculous. Now, the Countach, I'm looking at its specs, it's got 880mm of rear overhang. Craziness. Because somehow, I'm not making much sense. The body is aluminium. Yeah, I'm fiberglass. This is just cheap in comparison. We have no rear downforce, some body roll, and it does 169 miles per hour on comfort suspension. Yay! 501.0 horsepower is what it makes. And we have double wishbone, front and rear. It has 62% of the weight at the front. That's not good. Now, it brings me back to this menu, because if I can hopefully adjust it. Ooh, it's even a bit funny with the wheels. Speaking of which, do I want chrome? Yes, I do. Now, I'm trying to think of how I can put this together. Extend that back and that, then I may be able to make it look somewhat presentable. Ooh, I've just had an idea. If only I could get that Daytona kind of wing, I could use that to good effect. We also need some door handles, as well as hopefully the aero to hold this thing to the road. So rotate you slightly, and on the front we need a lip like you. Snap into place, and there we go. On the rear we need a little wing. There. You in the middle? No, you're not. Now you are. In the middle of the car. Oh dear. A bit of an awkward angle for a wing, if I say so myself. I may have just messed it up more now, though. There we go. Best to just leave it instead of trying to mess it up. The wheels. No, they're not wheels. These are wheels. Yes, let's go with those ones. Look like they're off a Dodge Neon. Cheap in the entire car, but okay. There's those. Don't work, really. Not in my mind, at least. Now, have we slightly improved the weight balance? No, we have not. It's also 1436 kilos, but it's still lighter than Lamborghini by over 100 kilos. About 140. Don't know why it took me that long, but it's about 140 kilos lighter than that. At least the good thing about this, so having the weight at the front is generally good when you get on the brakes, because the weight pushes onto the brakes and it moves backwards when you're accelerating, so it shouldn't be as bad as it's made out to be. At least if we can set up the hydro pneumatic system properly, then it should somewhat handle despite the dreadful weight balance. The weight itself, thanks to the fiberglass construction, it isn't too ridiculous, so we're not too bad there. Now, as it is, I think it's ready to go around the track. How is it to 60? Oh dear, takes too long. I can't be bothered changing it. But we are going to take it around the track if I can find it. So I'll do that now. Okay, this will not do. It's a slower time than the Retromy Bob V8 with injection and the turbo, obviously. Not the slow one. But it's within 5 seconds of it, so we will hopefully be able to recover this somewhat. Also, I think the poor miles per gallon is because of the extra weight. That can kind of be explained compared to the other engines. Now, I'm thinking there's other ways of doing what I want, like getting smart with the setup. For example, I've not used fuel mixture yet. It will hurt economy, it's inevitable, but maybe I'll have to. Again, I'll have to play with this V10 and see just what I can do to it. Make it bigger, smaller, put turbos on it. See whatever I can do to just try and bring it into a competitive level. Okay, so I finally built an engine that I'm quite happy with. As you can tell, it's not perfect. It does have some lag of up to about 3200 RPM. But after that point, everything's fairly good, everything's fairly stable. It is limited for power. It only makes 4 horsepower more than a Lamborghini, but that's not too bad. But what is too bad is the torque, which is still a good 53 Newton meters less. However, I'm hoping, since when the turbo has come along, it is very fairly, is that even a thing? It's very stable torque, so we should at least get some good grunty 450 plus Newton meters of torque most of the time. I think that's what really helped the wet drum bobbin, which in this case should now help this vehicle. So that will hopefully get us done. For top speed, I'm not too sure. It's saying slightly lower than before. I don't think it really matters that much. I mean, that's just the penultimate speed that it'll do. Miles per gallon has improved. Maybe attributed to the weight, maybe attributed to the fact that it's twin turbo. But we do have 11.3 now, so we've gained about 1 mile per gallon, which is good. That's about 9% increase. Not bad at all for this kind of car. Still worse than what I had before, but it's something. Now, I will let this engine run, as I showed before. There is still that issue moment. We can also see all the stuff in there. A picture of a car on the wall and everything. But yeah, that's irrelevant. We need to test the engine, show it as best I can. Now, here we just have the nothingness. Yeah, and then the turbo comes on. Now, what makes me very happy about this engine, though, is the 7500 RPM rev limit. Now, it's not causing any damage to the engine at all, but other than that, we have the other benefit. It's 1000 RPM higher than the wet trimmy bob turbo, yet the turbo kicks in about the same point. So this engine should be much more competitive. Add to that, it makes more power when the turbos have kicked in. It's hard to find a single way that this engine is worse, so even in a heavier vehicle, it's not a bad unit by any means. We do gain 2 cylinders, and it's also a 5 litre engine. I'll mention that now, as opposed to a 6 litre that the wet trimmy bob turbo had, or an 8 litre naturally aspirated. It's now a 5 litre turbo, which is something. And I think all of this is more or less finished. I don't really think I need to change it. I can extend these gears out a bit because it's a turbo, so it should have the torque to push through them a little stronger. Other than early on when it might have some turbo lag. We've got 11.4 miles per gallon now, but it's saying 11.3 is better. I don't know. It's capable. I mean, that's the word that I can bring up. This should not be slower now, as long as the weight balance is slightly better than the appalling excuse it was before. We should be very capable. Now, if I can go and find the right statistics, hopefully, of the weight balance. Where are you hiding? Maybe under test track? Yeah, I'm probably looking in all the wrong places. But there we go. I think that's 59% front now. Much better. It was about 63%, 62%. So although it's not perfect weight balance, at least now it's the standards you could expect from a wheel muscle car or something. It's not unusable. I think I did reset the suspension as well. Now, where's the weight? 1394 kilos. Also a bit lighter, all thanks to this new engine. It's just a better engine, I think, even with the turbo lag to contend with. And I'm going to take you around the test track now because I'm pretty sure we can finally beat the Retro Me Bob Turbo. Okay, so here we have the final vehicle, and it is quicker than the Retro Me Bob Turbo. I'll get onto that later though, as I have other things to speak about, such as the weight, which is higher, and how I actually beat the time. Now, I beat the time by going mainly with semi-slicks. I think that's what it all boils down to, because having the engine in the front has given me speed disadvantages. I wouldn't necessarily say performance disadvantages, since it's probably the better driveline for drifting, but in terms of outright speed, I had to go on semi-slicks to make it work, and even so, it was by a very small amount of time. Now, it is also heavier. There's two most crucial reasons for this. If we go back through these menus, you'll see I have an aluminium panel material now, which is slightly heavier than fiberglass. It also moves weight backwards, and it's less of a kind of kit car if I use aluminium. It's got a corrosion resistant steel, whereas it had a carbon fibre chassis at one point. Yeah, a corrosion resistant steel chassis, that is, not just corrosion resistant steel glued on. We have double wishbone front suspension and multi-link rear. And quality was on 0 on that, but I just changed it to +2. Because it's an embarrassing moment when you get that kind of thing wrong. But anyway, we have got to move through the interior. It's got 5 seats, again the intention to move weight backwards, although 4 is probably more realistic for this kind of vehicle, if you even have 4 seats in it. It's got a luxury interior and a premium cassette player. Considering the kind of positive interior, I guess you could say, it's a very light vehicle. I've gone with standard hydraulic because it saves a bit of weight, and it saves a bit of weight most crucially over the front of the car. So it's not a place you want to add weight. As for safety, yes, that's advanced now. So it is a premium car in general. It was set up for sport on the suspension because comfort wasn't working again. It had to be tuned quite heavily for the track to work. But sport suspension at the same time is no worse than the Retro Me Bob. That was on sport suspension, so I highly doubt it's going to be any less comfortable than that car. Miles per gallon is less comfortable, but it's heavier. 1475 kilos is not a light car, although it is 101 kilograms lighter than the Diablo. Just if only the turbo lag was better when it comes to getting to 60. But still, I've got to finish off by getting onto the actual time it's set, which isn't here right now, but it is a 2 minute 12.24 time, which is above the 2 minute 12.67 set by the Retro Me Bob Turbo. All in all, a very, very good showing from this vehicle. It's not necessarily the quickest vehicle around. It's beaten by the Bomb, which is the more modern mid-engined hypercar thing with 1,000-ish horsepower. I think I actually had more than double the power of this, so yeah, you can easily see why that's beaten this. And I'm just happy that I've beaten it, because it's not the typical kind of vehicle, but what alternatives did we have? Go back to the Retro Me Bob, or use what appears to be an LMP. If we go on bodies, I'll show you there is the 1987 coupe, which wasn't there at the time. I don't know why these have suddenly appeared here. Maybe I'll have to build something else with them. An NSX rival, perhaps, that would be interesting. But there is also the 1985 coupe. That was the one I meant. It looks like an LMP, and it wouldn't have really made the same kind of GT car idea as this. I guess a mid-engine car wouldn't either, because mid-engine cars are rarely GT cars. You see, Ferrari, they make the GT cars, and they're generally front-engined rear drive. Speaking of which, this is not all-wheel drive, it is rear-wheel drive. I can just show you on the menus somewhere back here. I think this one. We've got longitudinal rear-wheel drive. Excellent for keeping that engine far back. I don't know why the engine isn't showing up at the moment, it just isn't. but when it is there, it's just behind the front wheels, and that is no end going to help with front weight balance. Just if only I could bring the entire front back a little more, since it's not needed for the engine anymore. It would be useful to just try and reduce the extra front weight when it's just not necessary by any means. But that is our vehicle today, so I think I'm going to leave it at this. Or if I can find you anything more interesting to show. Ooh, look, $35,000. Anyway, people are seeing it as a supercar convertible. I don't know why it's not got a convertible roof or anything even close to that. See it as a hypercar and a muscle car in places, which is all pretty relevant terms of a convertible one. But I am going to leave it here, as I said a moment ago. So goodbye until another day.